Jon Bach. He's got almost 20 years experience in software testing. Has had technical and managerial positions at Hewlett-Packard, Microsoft, and eBay. His role as Director of Live Site Quality at eBay involves being a team dedicated to building end-to-end test quality flows to discover bugs on eBay's sites that threaten its core businesses. Jon is most notable for being the brother of renowned testing expert James Bach. I don't know. I think Jon's doing much better than James these days. With whom he created session-based test management. He can usually be found wearing a ball cap, hanging out in conference hallways, and talking about testing techniques and philosophy. And if he's not doing that, he's also Jon the Bug Hunter from eBay Radio, and he's a quality evangelist. And with that, Jon, you're on.
That was great. Wow. Where do I start? There's so much fodder in that intro for me from Doug. I don't know where to start. There's so much great information. Yeah, when my brother and I do talks together, which we rarely do, he introduces us as, "You can tell us apart," he says, "because I'm the one who has hair, and my brother has the capacity to love." So it's good to know that's paying off. I'm doing better than my brother. Yes, this is my 4th PNSQC. It's a great honor to be in front of you as the keynote. I have some new material. Yes, I've done many conferences, and some of my colleagues in the audience have done more than I have. And even though it's not a competition, with you in the audience, certain people that I see out there, like Karen Johnson, Keith Stobie, Danny Fott, I'm a little nervous. I'd much rather speak to strangers than colleagues. But you know, that nervousness is helpful, because we release ourselves to production every morning. And I am not a morning person. All right. Show of hands, thank you. Yes, there's my peeps. There's my peeps. I went to the Tableau conference in Seattle last month, and one of the keynote speakers was John Medina, who is an awesome, awesome speaker. Catch him on YouTube if you can, if you've never heard of him. He wrote a book called Brain Rules, and he's a molecular brain biologist. Studies the brain in a molecular form, I guess, I don't know, but that's his title. And he said, there are 2 kinds of chronotypes. He said, chronotypes. There's the early morning chronotype and the late chronotype. And you can no more change your chronotype, he says, than you can change your eye color. And to which he got a standing ovation from the early morning chronotypes, because he was giving a early morning keynote. So forgive me, I don't drink coffee. It's water. But it's more like, you know, when I do drink coffee, it's cream and sugar flavored coffee. So bear with me, I'm still getting warmed up. Because after all, we are computer code. We are full of programming that reveals its weaknesses under certain situations. And even though we ship ourselves to production every day, we have opportunities to fix that in flight. And that is some of the new material that I have to share with you about what I've done with this notion of live site quality at this company called eBay. So I will try to remember, maybe Doug will help me, to take Q&A at the end. I saw that I had 90 minutes, and I panicked that I didn't have enough material. And I always panic in the same way and say, no, if I'm going to speak about life site quality, I got it. And then like Doug said, I go to the conference, and then I start talking with you all, and you incite and invite great ideas. So the night before, I was like, oh, I got to talk about that. So I think I've got a coherent deck that has some game in it for you. But I don't know. We're about to find out, aren't we? So I thought I'd start with Portland. And man, there's a lot of bridges here. So good on you, PNSQC, for picking a theme about bridges to quality. I love conference themes. I like to try to integrate as much as I can, and when I'm invited to do a talk like this, and see, okay, bridge, what metaphors are germane to my work that I think may be germane to yours. So, see if my clicker is working here. It isn't. It was in rehearsal, I swear. Let me undo the key. Forgive me 1 second. Let's see if that'll work. Oh, I have to have focus on my slides. There we go. There we go. So I went and found some pictures of Portland bridges. Yeah, man, there are a lot of bridges. And I noticed, applause for the bridges. And well, now here's my applause for the bridges. Look at the dates on some of these. 1913, 1912, 1910, 1926, 1906. Should I be worried, Portland, about some of these? Speaking of life site quality, wow, what is the lifespan, pun intended, I guess, of the bridge? Very interesting set of bridges. And I thought, there are 10 bridges. Actually, there are 11, and I cut off one because I have 10 things I want to talk about, which, you know, I naturally see that? Keynote's prerogative, just to shoehorn my content into metaphor. These are approaches to certain kinds of testing you might do. And in my view, testing only reveals what's already broken. You don't break software if you're a tester. And some people say, whatever, John, I like to break stuff and that's okay. And I'm like, well, when you think about it, no one really breaks you, even if you're held captive by whatever enemy that we may have. And one day when we go to whatever conflict we have, and they try to break you down. They're just revealing weaknesses that are inherent. And it's good to know about those weaknesses. But for the purposes of oratory, I think discovery is a more apt metaphor than breakage. So these are ways you can discover what's wrong, what risks are out there with your production service or offering, your solution. So before I launch into other metaphors, let me share with you a little bug that I found. I have Charter, which is a internet service provider in Morgan Hill, California, where the yellow dot is. That's where Morgan Hill is. And internet was down, and I decided to figure out what was going on without having to call Charter and stay online with them for an hour. There's a little app. There's an app for that. It's called Down Detector, apparently. And so I zoomed in on Morgan Hill and then zoomed out. I zoomed way out. That Morgan Hill the more you zoom in, the more red it is, right? It pinpoints your area. And then I just zoomed out again, and I'm like, oh, it's not just me. Recent reports mostly originate from Lansing, Grand Rapids, Detroit, Atlanta, Southgate, St. Louis, Lebanon. I don't know if that's Lebanon, New Hampshire, Lebanon, Pennsylvania, Lebanon, the Novi. I don't know what Novi is. Okay, and then, okay, that's interesting. So this is live, right? This is their live app, and this is a notion of life site quality. Like, well, guys, that's not really helpful, right? All right, fine. Some bugs are forgivable. I just call customer support. Maybe it's a free app, right? So what can I expect? So one of the apps that I use is from Yahoo, and to get the Gamecast. And so I'm Doug mentioned I usually wear a ball cap, and I do. It usually says eBay, but now since I'm close to the Bay Area, right? I'm in the Bay Area. I root for my Giants. Okay, so I'm wondering who are the Giants going to play, the Royals or the Orioles? And it's the bottom of the 10th, as you can see in the top. It's 8-5 KC, and I'm kind of rooting for those guys. Like, well, those guys have a lot of spark, and I admire that. And you see that the pitcher, Mr. Holland, there is pitching to someone named Jimmy Paredes, who apparently also plays for the Royals. So I thought, okay, that's forgivable, but what kind of bug is this? Is this a bitmap bug? Do they paste the hat on and it's just pulling from the wrong hat database? And I thought, okay, testing is about discovery weaknesses. Maybe he played for the Royals once upon a time. And sure enough, I went to Wikipedia, and he plays for the Orioles. And he also played for the Astros and the Kansas City Royals. So, and because I saw this more than once, right? So what they decided to do, I'm guessing, is, hey, these baseball players get traded all the time, back and forth. It's really hard to maintain their picture. Good enough, right? And that's okay. Again, it's forgivable. I get it. I'm not interested in the ball cap. I'm interested in the score, right? So you can ship to production with bugs, and they're no big deal. Well, until they are, right? Until they are. Remember, I'm using this app for the score, and it is 8-5, Royals in the bottom of the 10th, and Jimmy is it's 3-2, and 2 outs, and I'm like, sweet, and I'm not able to see it on TV, right? That's why I have the app. I forgot where I was at the time. I got 55% battery. I got a couple of bars. I'm good. You know, I'm on the wireless. And then the game is over. And I'm like, wait a minute. It's 3-2. What happened? What happened? Yes, yay, Royals, right? But we're playing the Royals, and I like their stuff, right? It's going to be an interesting World Series. But I want to really wait. What did I? So I went and I used an Oracle, MLB.com, and I said, what did I miss? Okay, so at the very top, Jimmy Paredes to second. Oh, he got on base. And then there was a substitution. Okay, fine. Then Nick is up to bat next, and he grounded out. Ah, got it. Okay, well, that would have been nice to know. So there was some hiccup, at least on my phone. All right, I don't know, I can call Yahoo and complain, I guess, but whatever. It's less forgivable. It's more annoying now. But I had to use a competitor app, if you can call it that. It's MLB.com. But my point is the hat thing doesn't matter. This matters more. Maybe there's even a stronger one later that may actually get me angry. Right? Welcome to live site quality, or notions thereof. So let's go to my house, shall we? Now, to do this talk, I had to be vetted by certain departments like PR and investor relations, and there's some really cool stuff I wish I could talk about, but I can't. So I have to play it very careful. Don't worry, there's some goods in here that were cleared, and I'm good to go. But there's a lot going on at eBay, as you can imagine. Any big company has challenges and successes and really cool things going on. But my point being, if we went to eBay right now, and you can all do this, right? You got a mobile app, you can be there right now. What I'm interested in is the experiences that you have. Some may find things annoying, some of you may get angry, some of you may be delighted, I don't know. So especially when you go to the home page and you're looking at least 8 teams. That little piece of the header there is the deals team. We have customer to customer selling, that's that little piece, that little circle. My eBay, and then there's my eBay buying and my eBay selling. Seller dashboards and what you've just bought. It's 2 different paradigms. The global header team, they actually own the whole header and the footer. There's the retail promo platform, or RPP. View item team, the collections team, and on and on. So how then do we define quality? Well, there's lots of different ways, and maybe some of these resonate with you as well. So certainly, we're in the commerce business, and any experience that you have buying something that is, in your opinion, bad, okay, we call those BBEs, or bad buyer experiences, because you let us know. One heuristic of quality, so the heuristic of quality is low, low number of bad buyer experiences. I should have said low number. And a heuristic, by the way, is a rule of thumb. It's a guideline. It's a fallible method for solving a problem. So these aren't perfect, but these are notions of how we gauge quality. Certainly how much gross merchandise was bought, sold. Have you heard of this one before? NPS, or Net Promoter Score. How likely are you to recommend eBay to a friend or colleague? Right? And we take polls and surveys and we find out. Certainly earnings per share. We're a publicly traded company, so stock price matters. That's one way we measure value. Quality is value. Quality is value to some person. Quality is value to some person I care about. So when someone asks you, what is quality? That's one definition that I proffer. And there's lots of other things. There's things going on social media. Every morning there's called the mission report. And if you're an employee and you know the password and the code to the bridge, you can dial in and listen to challenges that happened in the last 24 hours from operations. They do a review of what happened. eWatch is tier 2 escalation, customer support. What bugs do they most want to see fixed? That's an interesting list to have. And I encourage you to do that if you don't have a customer support team. It makes it hard to do. But if there's an escalation tier, find out what they care about. I'm sure they want to see every bug fixed. But maybe they want to see certain bugs fixed more than other bugs. And that's helpful, at least to me. And so it's a notion I want to throw out there to you. And some usual metrics like MTTD and MTTM and different things you already might be aware of. We have those too. There's more things. Bugs that are overdue to be fixed. Results from surveys we take. When you click on tell us what you think and you fill in the little radio buttons 1 to 5. And there's a little text field of verbatims you can leave us. What are you saying? I can look those up and actually read them. People actually read those, by the way. When you fill in that form, they're a team, any team can have access to that. It's called QU, which is query understanding. So when you do a query, you do a search for something on eBay, looking for an item, and it doesn't deliver what you want, you can click tell us what you think and it delivers a little form. I'll show a picture of it later. Okay. I'll get into eBay radio a little bit later. Doug mentioned that in the intro. It's a fun story. I'll talk about that later. So, yeah, Doug said, yeah, I've been around a while. This slide's only important because I used to be a tester. I'm still a tester at heart. But most of my career was the pursuit of discovery, of finding those bugs. Right? What is already broken in our releases? These days, well, since 2011, really. I started at eBay, moved from Seattle, where I used to work at CoreDev, who is a PNSQC sponsor. Thank you, CoreDev. And started as a quality engineering director with a team of about 12 people in search and the front end. And then a job opened up called Director of Lifesite Quality in 2012, and I couldn't believe it. It was like, wow, this is, the previous director was moving to PayPal. And my boss said, you seem like you'd really be good at this. Do you want this? And I'm like, wow, you mean testing the whole smash? You mean all of the eBay end to end? And yeah, I'd love that. And that's where I departed more from how can we find this stuff to what do we do now that we found a bunch of stuff? It's like, so what? And now what? And then 2013, reorg happened, end-to-end solutions, so still lifesite quality, but more into the automation of how do we automate important user flows. And another reorg where I became a PM for a few months in something called Commerce OS, which is web services. And then another, it wasn't a reorg, but it was an opportunity that came out of nowhere to be an evangelist for the data, one of the big data teams, global data infrastructure. So I still have a hand in lifesite quality and still apply these ideas. So, but what specifically do I do? Well, for the NPS, for the Net Promoter Score, there's a program at eBay called Customer Callback Program. And any employee can participate. And what it is it's a follow-up with a customer who gives us a survey. And I think of a score of 6 or lower. I'm not quite sure what the threshold is. And you agree to call them back at a time. They say, yeah, you can call me at these hours of the day. And basically you're listening to why they gave us the feedback that they gave us. And I really love doing this because it's a chance for me to be a representative from eBay that says, no, really, we are listening to you, and let me prove it to you. So we'll call back, and I say, and they answer the phone, and I say, this is John from eBay. We got your survey. Is this a good time to talk? And they usually say, yep, this is fine. And I remind them of what they told us, and I just listen. And I write notes in the portal, and I hit, send, and it goes to the Office of the President or wherever the Net Promoter Score team is located. I noticed a pattern, though, in doing many of these, that at the very end of the call, no matter how upset a customer might be, like, oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, let me tell you how I feel about that. And I listen and I make notes and I ask probing questions. And at the very end, they say, it's really nice that you called. Almost without fail, 9 times out of 10, they will say that. And that is proof that it's working to that degree, that notion of lifecycle quality, not only the NPS score itself, but that follow-up matters to me. So I like doing that. I like connecting with customers. And, when I look out at the audience and up in the monitor to the overflow room, I'm watching you. You're all customers of eBay. When they say, think like the customer. Well, yeah, you mean like everybody on the planet? Think like them? Yeah, okay. I can do that. But you all have stories. And you all know what eBay is and what it's trying to do. And that feedback is important to me. There's a program called Voices, which is kind of our early adopters program. Hardcore sellers, usually. Mostly, I don't think there's any like hardcore buyers that we have, at least at Voices. And so I'll speak to them like I'm speaking to you. And they're under NDA, so I can give them a little bit more detail about how we do things and what my role is. And here comes eBay Radio. No, I'll wait on that. I have a slide for that. I'll keep you in suspense. Okay. I also try to raise awareness. Like, what are the P1, priority 1 bugs we found this week? And where can people find the root cause analysis? What's the ticket number in the portal that we have? So this is good tribal knowledge. Everybody at the company has access to this to find out this week what team had an opportunity, had a challenge that I could learn from. What are the bugs that are overdue to be fixed given our SLA, service level agreement? I run the USLA program out of SLA with production bugs across a team called GP&T, which is Global Products and Technology. And that includes shipping, search backend, selling, GPI, which is Global Platform Infrastructure, lots and lots and lots of teams. All the teams that you encounter when you use eBay. And so I send a weekly report of bugs that are either about to expire or are on the, will expire in a given week. So, and that is a notion of awareness. And I mentioned the mission report, what bad things happened in the last 24 hours. When I speak to new hires, I tell them about this thing called the mission operations call. Did you know, my dear new hires, that every morning at 9 a.m. you can call in and lurk, you don't have to announce yourself, on the mission operations bridge and learn in detail what happened with a site outage that lasted for 22 seconds or whatever it might be. And it's a call that lasts anywhere from 10 minutes to 45 minutes. And I mentioned it to new hires because they could be on the verge of learning something very, very relevant that their manager may not be privy to yet. It may not be germane to their project, but they can still learn that tribal knowledge every morning if they want to. So I raise awareness about that. And oftentimes when I listen into the bridge and operations has a question, I may have an answer. I may know who may need to be on the call or to follow up with an email. Foster cooperation. So I drive issues that threaten this notion of readiness. Here we are coming into Q4, right? Well, we're in Q4 now. So our holiday season is the busiest, the biggest part of our year. So what kinds of issues threaten our ability to provide service to you guys? As a program called Site Readiness, which extends all year, of course, but particularly around capacity needs in Q4. I make sure eWatch, which is that Tier 2 customer support, I make sure they're in the loop on certain issues. If I don't see them on an email thread, I may include them and say, hey, you guys might have an FYI here about this particular issue. Or they may ask me, we're trying to get traction on this bug. We're a bit stalled. We don't know if this is the right person. Maybe they left the company. We don't know. Can you help us? Can you make sure the right people are on the CC line? And it's not a problem for me to do that because I'm not in, I work for a particular manager in a particular silo called GDI, Global Data Infrastructure. But I'm really not in any one silo. I have a reputation for knowing who the search front-end QE director is, and the search back-end QE director is, and the shipping QE director, and the customer-to-customer director QE. So I have alliances. And that, as Anna Roisman talked about yesterday, and she did that talk at the conference for the Association for Software Testing where I first saw it. The house was packed yesterday, by the way, for Anna's talk, 130 people in the room. And she talked about this emerging role called the quality leader. And she mentioned a term that I forgot about, and I got to mention that tomorrow, called servant leadership. And my brand at eBay, and thanks to you just a few minutes ago when Doug was making the intro, the way you applauded for me about my reputation being maybe different than James in that way, that was new data for me. Thank you. Wow, I'm working on my reputation every day. I want to be smart, I want to be useful, I want to be responsive, I want to serve, and I want to lead. And this quality leader that Anna talks about is exactly what I'm doing. When I first heard her talk, I'm like, Anna, that's me. I'm so glad that you did this talk because that validates I feel like ADD. Like I do this, some of these things that I've been talking about because they feel right to me. They feel like and they're fun to do. And it gives my work meaning. And that's why I was blown away that this quality evangelist role actually opened up for this manager who believed that I could provide value in a big data team. And I say it because I want to do the same favor that Anna did for me and validate your intuition, perhaps, that all these metrics and techniques about quality, definitions of quality, that no, you're not quality unless you're CMM level 5, or that you're doing TQM, or some other thing, like, listen, that's all process and procedure. Where are the people in this? And that's my focus, is bringing it back to people. Like this, like leading testing, like coordinating teams and end-to-end testing, getting the eBay Motors team to work with the search front-end team, and a feature that we called My Garage, right? So searching for parts for your car and making sure that every day they're doing something. That was a great effort. So coordinating teams and the whole flow, as you saw on the homepage, because there's so many teams that need to cooperate to get things to work. That might take the form of bug bashes that focus on this crazy approach called exploration. Wow, no test cases, no procedure? You mean I get to play? And I say, yes, just don't call it play. Your manager may think, My brother doesn't mind calling it playing around, but I do mind because I feel like if executives and stakeholders think of it as playing around, they'll dismiss it. Like, oh, anybody could, my 7-year-old could do that. Put a shoe on the space bar, and it's even called a shoe test. Really, John? That's an approach? Well, yeah, I'm not going to literally take off my shoe and put it on the space bar. But the idea is there to validate their good and their skill in critical thinking, and to enhance it and catch them doing something right. When they say, I found a bug, John, I'm like, awesome, tell me about it. Well, it does this, this, and this, and boom. And I say, you mean it appears to do that, that, and that, because it's not doing that for me, So I have all 5 browsers on my toolbar for that reason. When the developer says, works on my machine, I say, they're using IE. Well, let's take a look at Safari or Opera. To which they'll say, Opera, really? Opera? No user would do that. And I say, okay. No user you like would do that on purpose, but let's talk about semantics and we get into. So I validate that I treat exploration like a scientific discipline because it is. Conjecture informed by corroborating or refuting evidence. That's what exploration is. That's what testing is. It's discovery, remember? That's what I think it is. I'm going to go down a rant about test cases versus exploration pretty soon. So I also do a little bit of managed crowdsourcing testing efforts when that happens, when a bunch of bugs come in, and I often help with that effort too. Okay, so I want to quickly run through these little bridges. So the technique is the bridge between silos, but the people are also the bridge. So let me help you feel normal. And if you've ever used eBay and noticed something change and you go, that was weird, or maybe it's just me, maybe not. Maybe we're doing an experiment. Maybe, for example, when you came to eBay, your images were big, 1 minute, and then you refreshed the page or went away and came back and they were smaller, right? Or vice versa. That's more likely the case. Well, that's called A/B testing. We're going to ship 2 versions to production, version A and version B. And we're going to see which one gets the most lift, as we call it, GMV, gross merchandise volume, right? And then the business can make a decision on, hey, well, we're getting more GMV for A, let's ship A. Okay, we do this in flight, right? You come to the site, and Anna may have a GUID. Well, she does, and her GUID is different than Keith's would be. So we hash those, and we send you to one treatment or the other. So we can do testing in real time, right? It's experimentation. That may explain some of the weirdness. On the other hand, you may say, hey, that was neat. That's different. That's different than it was yesterday. I kind of like that. And good, let us know about that. I mean, well, you do. You let us know either way. That's one thing I really love about working for eBay. You hear about the good and the bad. When people notice something and it's good, they were like, oh, that's better. I really like, keep doing that. They say. Okay, I mentioned this. So survey, you go to the site and you do a search or you do some kind of experience. And when you click this little thing on the side, and I'll do that again because that was such a cool PowerPoint animation. I'm so proud of that. So right there, dun, dun, dun. When you click that, we see this. How effective was this eBay page in helping you accomplish what you came to the page to do? Don't know. Very effective, somewhat effective, neither effective nor ineffective, somewhat ineffective, very ineffective, and then the verbatim, tell us more. And I can log into the QU portal and then read the verbatims. And the reason I would do this, and have done this, is if there's a particular issue that we can't reproduce, I may go to QU and log in and say, and do a search for verbatims saying, did we get people telling us, hey, my item isn't showing up, or I'm looking for X and I'm getting Y, at the same time we had a site incident. And that'll help me pinpoint, triangulate. that in a way that's helpful to the investigation, whatever team is doing the investigation. So it's important for us. It's not like, well, we want to hear from you. Of course we do. But as technicians, all of you, this has particular import to people like me. So if you really are caring about quality of all forms, as a customer, at least at eBay, I can tell you we're listening. Technicians are listening. This is a weapon that we have to make our software as good as we want it to be and need it to be. Then there are some half-baked ideas that we can do in production. This is one of mine. You notice the color coding here. This comes from an idea I created when a manager, my second manager at eBay in 2012, said, we're having an all hands and we're having a lunch session, and I want you, John, to come up with a fun and interesting exercise that people can do while they eat their lunch. And make it related to quality or some germane thing to what we're talking about. I'm like, no problem, I'm on it. Having no earthly idea. Even though my repertoire of ideas, nothing worked. And I take that back. I remembered I did have an idea, but it wasn't the right idea. Well, the idea was this. Before a month, a year before she asked me to do this, to get developers to pay attention to bugs that I felt were overdue, I would put a little Lego brick on their desk with the bug number on it. Try it. It's really interesting what'll happen. It's a social experiment. You can try it at your leisure. And they return it to you when the bug is fixed, right? So the more Lego bricks they have on their desk, the more embarrassing you would think it would be. Developers building like castles and dragons. Guys, I want them back. The bug ID is okay. So I tried this experiment. Yeah, I had varying degrees of success. But it was fun because it got me out of my desk, and I don't know how I thought of it. I just thought of it. And I was smitten with my own idea because I was going to go tell our CTO, with all the bricks that we get back, we can build something. We can literally build a house of quality from all these fixed bugs. And he loved the idea. And so that's what I decided to do, is build this Lego house. But I got busy and it never got done. But for several weeks, these Legos were on people's desks. Okay, so manager says, fun lunchtime activity. And I said, what if, I have these Lego bricks and they're different colors. What if I put them on the table during lunch, so 10 tables of 10 people, and I just put a pile of Lego bricks. And my idea was, here, we're all together here. This is a chance for me to get some free ideas. So the red bricks represent some kind of registration and sign-in, like a really popular, essential feature. And the yellow bricks are search. And the green bricks are something like a vertical, like collectibles or my eBay. And the object, my dear friends, with your Lego bricks, is to one of you at the table, hopefully it was a round table, one of you take one Lego brick and come up with a test step of some kind, germane to that feature, like registration. So this table, the first person took a red brick and took a post-it note and said, registered new account, and handed that brick and that post-it note to the person next to them. And it ran around the table until they had a scenario. Register a new account. Okay, then someone said, okay, register a new account. Okay, you're going to give me a red brick. Okay, I'll choose yellow. Use advanced search to look for, I don't know, silver dollars. Oh wait, not just any silver dollar, a date range of 1898 to 1903, because we're all colleagues, right? And we like to outdo each other, right? And this is what the post-it actually said. And he handed it to the person next to him. Okay, I'll take a yellow brick too. Do a sort. Sort by time ending soonest. Not best match, time ending soonest. Maybe that's not very used on eBay. We'll find out. The next person also did find an item and view it, and away we go. And this is a fun lunchtime way to create a valid scenario in production. And I got 10 of these that I could go back and then tell the end-to-end automation team, automate that. Let's see if we can do it just scripted flow, really simple. and run it all the time, see what we can do. So this is so the charter was simulate a new eBay user who's looking for silver dollars to add to their collection. There's no setup, but just do it in production. I guess you need an account, but so one of my ideas to try. Okay, again, like my ADD, my notion, my need to be relevant and useful, like a good little Thomas the Tank Engine. I just want to be useful and smart and relevant and have fun. So there's a guy named Griffiths. His real name is Jim. He's been at eBay since like day one. He's like employee number 12 or some crazy thing back when we were called Auction Web. And he hosts a podcast called eBay Radio. Actually, it's not weekly, it's twice weekly. And he heard about me. He heard about my, he saw me speak at all hands and saw me in email trying to connect the dots and help the greater organization, grease the gears of progress. And he said, would you be willing to come on the show and be a guest? And I said, yeah, I've seen that little studio next to the cafeteria. I always wondered what that was. I've never had time to look up what that was. He said, yeah, it's a podcast. And I'm like, great. And so I go to the studio. It's a tiny little room. Put on my headphones. And he's like, thanks for coming. And I'm just going to introduce you. And you talk about your role. And he said, do you want to take some phone calls? And I said, phone calls? This is a call-in show? Yeah, this is a live podcast. I had no idea. I'd never listened to the show before. I should have listened to the show before. And I'm like, that is off the hook, crazy cool. I would love to take phone calls. And I said, well, wait, before we go on air, I only want to hear about bugs, like not suggestions. I was sent out an APB, right, all points bulletin for bugs. And they said, deal. I'll say we're only going to have bugs. And we took 3 phone calls of bugs I had no earthly idea about. And I was like, be careful what you wish for. So I thought, I'll just use some Aikido here. I'll take the energy and I'll just put it in a different place. Instead of saying, I don't know about that, or, yeah, we're on it, and like make something up. I said, interesting, tell me more about that. Tell me more about what you were trying to do. So I'm trying to get details and recon. And it leads to emails like this, like, hey, I've got a screenshot for you, John. And, they email me. And before I decided to give out my email to customers, I went to IT and I said, can I get a custom email address? I know it might take 6 months. They said, no, you could, depending on what it is, you may get it today. I'm like, really? Sweet. How about like John the Bug Hunter, And they're like, okay. And I had to fill out some forms. And so that's the thing. It's actually bughunter@ebay.com. And the reason this moniker came is because Griff invited me back to the show a month later because it went so well, he thought. And hey, tell us what happened with these bugs. So I got permission and I did. I said, here's where we stand. And we took more phone calls. And by the 3rd month, I put on my headphones and went on the show, and there was bumper music. It was like intro music. It was like dun 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 dun, right? The Peter Gunn spy theme, right? It was like, you're on live with John the Bug Hunter. I'm like, serious? And this is pre-recorded. Griff wasn't doing this. It was all pre-recorded. And I'm like, John, and I cupped the mic like this. I'm like, John the Bug Hunter. I loved it. So bughunter@ebay.com. And okay, I don't expect you have a podcast that's live with callers, but this was a complete accident that I stumbled into, had a crazy amount of fun, and I get emails like this saying, help me Obi-Wan, you're my only hope, right? And I call customer support, and it didn't, and so I have to be careful on how I advertise this, even though I know this is being recorded, so I have to, now it's too late now, so strike it in post, really. No, No, I don't mind. I know, even if I don't know the bug, or I'm not going to say, oh yeah, we know about this, or I have to be very careful what I say. But it's free reconnaissance around that. So, but look at this. Look what this customer told me. I sent a message to the team through the "What do you think" for that page. That's awesome. That tells me that they told us, they gave us a verbatim. I can actually look up and triangulate what this screenshot is about selling reminders going to the top. Okay. Sometimes I've been testing for a long time, and I've been to conferences, and I've learned from a lot of you guys, and like I said, I proffer my half-baked ideas, and we confer, right? It's a conference, this PNSQC stunt that they've pulled every year for 32 years. And I learn stuff, and I try new ideas. And I noticed something, that when I was invited to the war room for investigations of what's going on and what are the ideas, sometimes I'm just a fly on the wall, and I'll listen and I'll observe what's going on. So for example, if there's a drop in bids that's out of band that we didn't expect, I notice certain things happening that the TDO, technical duty officer, may ask, well, okay, when they may say, when did this really start happening? Or they may already know, but it's brought up. Did we just roll to production? Do we have any indicators that this is malicious? And is there anybody who's not in the room? Is there a third-party provider, for example? Maybe somebody already knows about this. So it's a mnemonic that doesn't make any sense. For cost tip, they don't have to be in any particular order. The more bizarre the mnemonic, the more easy it is to remember. So make your own. They don't have to fit into spell quality, Q-U-A-L, whatever. But I've noticed these patterns. And so once I notice a particular pattern in something like an investigation or root cause analysis, then I can bring that to other teams and say, this might be helpful to you to trigger your memory or trigger some kind of intellect to figuring out what's happening with your code quality before production. Exploration. So my brother was looking for a subject for his rapid testing intensive, he called it, and still does. It's a class that he offers, 3 days of finding important problems in a piece of software, describing and experimenting and learning about something called rapid testing. So the skill of discovery under pressure and time, under scrutiny, to rapidly reveal important problems using heuristics, systems thinking, all kinds of lateral thinking, critical thinking skills. So I said, I want to be the subject of one of your rapid testing intensive. And so take this eBay Motors tire finder and wheel center. So if you're looking for tires for your car, there's a particular kind of search experience, tire finder and then wheel center for rims and different things. So that's one way that I can learn about production quality right away through skilled testers, in this case 80 testers from around the world, in person and online. We had somebody from eBay Motors, a tester, who was part of this rapid testing intensive and to triage the bugs coming in. But it was charter-based exploration. So starting off with modeling, like, okay, what is tire finder? What is wheel? What does it do? And then doing an informal usability poll from the people, from these 80 testers from around the world, from a scale of 1 to 5. How usable was this? What's your experience? And then drilling down into specific coverage around just finding bugs around the model that they had built for this, discerning what the model was. We didn't give them any secret stuff. It was all front end, production, black box testing. And learned a lot of things in the rapid testing intensive that I could bring back to eBay about charters, how charters are formed, missions for testing. I'll get into a few in a minute. Capability testing. If a large seller like HP wants to have a flash sale, they want to dump a lot of inventory onto the site, can we accommodate them? And this is what happened in December 11th of 2011. And they announced it, and so I was part of meetings that had many different kinds of teams to figure out, how is this going to work? What do we need to test before, and how do we test live in the moment to make sure that we have remediation if anything goes wrong? So that's a true live site quality test, is right there in the moment, being able to be in the operations center when all of our test planning really gets, where our testing was tested. And then things like dog fooding, or using our own customer. When I was a PM for the automation team, I kind of made myself the PM. We needed a PM. We needed somebody to say, what important flows should we automate sooner rather than later? And instead of writing specs like a PM apparently should do, right, that we never get, I decided to make screencasts. And this is one of them, if it works. Okay. So imagine being a test automator, and you don't want to read specs. You just want to say, okay, what's Jon doing here? He wants me to type in this string, Secrets of a Buccaneer. Oh, it's his book. Oh, it's his brother's book. Ah, that's cute, Jon. That's funny. Oh, but hey, it's an authentic scenario. So I'm searching for that particular book, and I found one, and I click it, and I click a link called Sell It Yourself, which prompts me to sign in because I'm not signed in. Okay, so that's invoking the sign-in code. Man, it's thinking about it, so there's an opportunity to do some perf testing there. Okay, sure. And then it brings up, okay, sell it yourself, and this is one of the experiences that we had where it pre-populates the listing for me with all the metadata already in there, and all I have to do is select a price and click List It, which I did. Click. And it says, good job, your item is now listed for sale. Pretty cool, huh? Super fast. We already have the metadata. We know what it is you're selling. It says sell it yourself. Bang, I'm up and running. But wait, there's more. Then the customer, me, goes to my eBay, because they're so excited that they listed something on eBay. They find that listing to verify it, and there it is, and they're all happy. But wait, there's even more. Did you know you can search for an item number? You have a, 10-digit item ID. If you put that into search, it should come up. And I'm telling the automator, go do that flow, then go to eBay, type in that item ID, and verify that it comes up. So I went through the whole end-to-end flow, defining the ends just like that. There it is. That's my listing. That's what I want you to automate. No long reading, just what was that, a minute and a half, something like that? A video spec, I called it, a screencast. So I made a few of these, and I said, this is the kind of thing that I think just do this in production. You need a production account, it has to be vetted, the whole thing, they already knew. And this is one notion of that. So that's why I like talking to you guys, because you give me really interesting scenarios. I could have had an end-to-end test like list a book. Okay, fill in the form, list, it's done. But what I do as an eBay seller is I get excited by that. Like, okay, then I go to my eBay, make sure it's there, make sure it's all good. I bring up the listing again. I try it from another browser perhaps, and then I type in the item ID. I want to really make sure it's there, right? And it's more rich than just, oh, I listed it, it's done. There's a couple of nuance in here, as you saw. So that's a charter. That's a mission statement that I made. And this is from Elizabeth's book. Elizabeth, I consider her a colleague. I've known her for several years. She's an aficionado of exploratory testing. She's very much an agilist, I would say, and she would probably say that too. These charters don't have to be big and heavy They can be general. They can give you a notion of what to do. Okay? And that's part of unearthing bugs in production. Explore messaging with privacy settings to discover circumstances where the privacy model breaks. And you could literally set your clock and say, you know, from 1 to whenever I'm done, maybe 2:30, I'm going to explore this charter in what I call a session, a time-boxed, dedicated spate of testing. But there's another kind of charter that I'm still experimenting with. That it's a lot of fun. Again, here's eBay. What's the quality right now, John? Well, I don't know. We have to put it through a couple of lenses. What if I gave you an open book exam to take? A series of open-ended questions that encourage you to learn and explore in your own way, but still do service to the charter. For example, there's a lot of them here. What is the most expensive item on eBay right now? Right? Now imagine that you're a new hire. I just hired all of you. Boom. You work for me. But welcome to eBay. There's the bathroom. There's the break room. And I have to be in meetings for the next, like, 10 days. So, but no, I'll meet you for lunch. I'll meet you for lunch. And, but in the next 3 hours, here's a 30-question open book exam. And go. We're going to debrief these. So you can cheat if you want to, but you have to show your work. Right? And we'll debrief this as a group. I'll take the lectern up here. And I'll say, okay, question number 1. What item for sale is nearest to your location? Oh, typo there, your location. And so you may say, here's how I did it. And here, no, I did it a different way. And oh, you know, there's a third way to do that? I'm like, really? Tell me about, let's drill down on your way. So it's open, right? And a closed book, just like a closed book exam, it's like it tests your knowledge. Open book tests your resourcefulness. And that's what I'm more interested in. Exploration, discovery, how did you do that? Because just when you think there's only 3 ways to list an item, someone will say, you know, there's a 4th. And it'd be some really interesting way we didn't anticipate, or a really interesting variation of a test case or a flow. That's how I learned that you can look up an item by the ID. The open book test. I was like, did you know that you can look this? Because I'm typing in like secrets of, and I'm going through the listings, which ones. And someone said, no, just go to my eBay. You can, oh, of course, I totally forgot. And no, there's a quicker way. The item ID in the search field. Oh, cool. Okay, so this is a way to incite and invite a culture of learning. But we all, even with all these techniques and principles, we have to decide life site quality, is it good enough? The notions, the data that we take, is it good enough? And this is a method for me to do that. It's got to meet 4 criteria. For anything to be good enough, it has to have sufficient benefits, no critical problems. The benefits have to outweigh whatever problems there are, the non-critical ones obviously, because if it was critical, it wouldn't be good enough. And the 4th is, all things being equal, further testing, time, effort, money, investment, whatever you want to call it, is more harmful and wasteful than helpful. Okay? So I could have come up here and said maybe 2 sentences and said, Bach out, throw the mic drop, right? And just like gone. You know, said a couple of cool sound bites. Like, really? That's your keynote? Okay, a little more investment, John, would have been nice, you know. Likewise, if I'm up here for too long and I had you at hello, right? That's wasteful. It's like, okay, we get it. Life site quality, here's how I can help. Okay, you're right up against lunch. You got to be winding up, something like that, right? So we all do this math in our head. Is the chair you're sitting in good enough? Am I good enough? You know, but there's a corollary. Good enough for who, good enough for what, and good enough for when. These are important contextual questions that you need to answer, right? Because it may depend. So, quick example, company coming over, married or not, you might have somebody else who's involved in the housekeeping, right? And you have to decide your cleanliness standard. Is it good enough for company to come over? So I'm thinking, good, I got my to-do list, I'm dialed in, my wife is she's got her list, she's dialed in, and she goes, can you vacuum underneath the couch cushions? And I'm like, really? That's an interesting quality standard. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's not on my to-do list, and it's not going to be, of course I say it more, try to say it more sweetly if I'm not under stress. Like, what? No. I can say it like, no. We make a deal. And she said, well, I really need it to be done because, you know, Annapurna is allergic to cats, and cat fur is, I'm like, oh, of course, yes. I will do it. So it makes sense now because of that heightened. So it went from, yeah, couch good enough to, oh, wait, further time and effort and investment is not more harmful or is helpful. It's not wasteful. It's actually crucial. It's crucial because I want my guests to be comfortable. So for who and what and sufficient benefits, no critical problems, benefits outweigh problems, and then that fourth one, further time and effort. So this bar may go up and down depending on that. So, but I don't know. I'm always looking for signals. Like right now, I don't know if eBay is up right now. I hope it is, but that's one obvious notion of quality is our service is up. But there's all these different kinds of notions, as you see. Okay? So it comes down though to an executive who wants a certain standard and your staff who have maybe a different standard, and there you are the bridge. Fear not of being in this conundrum, because there's this book that means a lot to me called Influencer that blew me away. It's very potent with stories about influencers who did things like cure diseases, and you know, like there were 12 of you and you cured this disease in 21 countries? Yes, and this is how we did it. This changed my working life as a quality leader. I thought everybody does stuff because they're either motivated or they're not. It's very simple. And here's how you influence them. You get them to do it. How hard is that? And somebody took this class at eBay and said, no, you got to take this. This changed my life. I'm like, really? And this is a person I really respected. And I was like, okay, wow, it's a 2-day course. All right. And it's a two-day course around this book and around this matrix. And I realized, no, it isn't just number one. It isn't all about just personal motivation. Sometimes it's about peer pressure. All right, of course. I want to do that thing, but you know, there's social consequences for that. So, you know, I'm not going to do it. Or I didn't know I could do that thing, and there's positive peer pressure that rewards me for doing that. So it's about motivation and ability, these two columns. I really want to do it, but I don't know how to do it. I know how to do it, I'm just not motivated to do it. And then you go to personal, social, and structural. So I invite you to check this book out. It goes into detail, of course, about each of these 6 cells. Even something as simple as I'm able to do it, I'm motivated to do it, but there's no structure. I physically can't do it, like pulling a fire alarm or making a phone call. Like, my phone is dead. I would have called you, honey, but my phone was dead. I was motivated. I was able, in terms of I know how to use my phone. I just could not do it. So that tells us as quality professionals, quality leaders, what if we had a different environment? I want to flash the firmware for the HP LaserJet 4 that I was testing back in 2000. But you know, it takes an hour and a half, and I'm just, all right, I better start, you know, preparing for this, I guess. I'm not really motivated, it takes so long. So I may say this in a meeting, like, it's hard for me to get excited about printer testing because the firmware takes so long. And maybe when I admit that, my manager might say something, which they said, an hour and a half? Don't you know about Tony's batch file? It'll do it like 30 seconds. You didn't know about that? I'm like, no, I didn't know about that. That's really cool. Now I like want to be an expert on flashing firmware, right? So just this framework helps me understand why we do what we do. Because your influence is important in a role like this, or in a mindset of life site quality like this. Okay. Home stretch. I'm almost done. On Friday, I went to the Star West Conference, the Software Testing Analysis and Review Conference held every year in Anaheim about this time of year. And I was honored to be asked to do the keynote for the 5th day, which is the Testing and Quality Leadership Summit. And the title was Finding Your Edge on the Edge. Their theme wasn't bridges, their theme was testing on the edge. And I said, good, so my talk will be Finding Your Edge on the Edge. And I said, imagine that you're a big company that's had an important challenge in the last year. Not naming names like my company, but we've had some challenges that have been very public. So imagine that you say, never again, right, at your company. Now, just like you in the audience, they're sitting at tables. Well, I mean, they were configured differently, but there was just as many people. And they're about 8 to 10 at a table, round tables, about 15 round tables, and I put 5 index cards on every table because that's all I had. And I said, play along if you want to, but there are index cards on the table. What I'd like you to do is pick one of these roles, one of these colors, and on the index card, give me one idea. If you pick the development role, take an index card and just give me one idea to prevent this issue from happening again. And it could be any issue you want. It could be a security breach, it could be an outage, it could be any kind of feature that didn't work when it was rolled. Well, you pick it. Okay? And I had done this same experiment with people at eBay in a leadership summit, much like the one at Star. And I wanted to see how we compared with what you guys do. And I took the index cards and I put them on a slide. And so for those of the people in attendance who picked the developer role, their solutions were to do things like follow TDD and write more unit tests. I mean, this is all around lifecycle quality, right? Wear the tester hat during implementation. Use ATDD, which is acceptance test-driven development with test automation. Use BDD, which I assume is behavior-driven development. I didn't ask, but as opposed to business-driven development, I don't know if there's any other BDDs. Create a watchdog service to alert, restart, and reboot. Okay, interesting ideas. But I picked the most interesting or surprising index card, where this one said, we don't need to test functional specs, just business requirements. Educate that person and give relatable incident where they had a problem since someone else did not test their third-party functional specs. Communicate that something, I can't read that. Communicate that communicate that they need to test and display results in a dashboard. All right, cool. Some people pick the trainer role. So if you're a trainer, what would you do from now on? Teach where the report a problem link is. You may tell more stories around bad things that happened. Emphasize root cause analysis for bad stories that are told. This is one of my surprising favorites. Empathize with users, figure out how users learn. That's really cool. That's a novel way to approach a never again site problem. Change the training and examples that are relevant to that user. Now again, it's eBay, so all of you are users, so I don't know literally how I would do this, but their heart's in the right place. Learning how people learn. I also invited people to take a VP role. And this is what were on some of the index cards. We will not make release decisions in a silo. The VP was meant to say, what's the internal messaging? We will frame the process where we review risks as a team to make decisions. As a VP, say, I'll get this done, then give the teams anything they need, experts, diagnostics, pizza, okay? Right? Say, let's get together for lunch today and brainstorm what we can learn from this critical incident. You know, these are all from like people like you. Speaking like VPs, like this is what they would do if they were the VP. Elicit suggestions how to empower change. This is my favorite. Send communication to employees detailing the event. Cool. Include the plan of action and schedule when updates will be made with progress changes. Direct staff has to handle questions or inquiries from customers or media. Pitch perfect in my point of view. That's exactly what I would do if I was a VP. If you're a PM, what kind of suggestions did I get? Design with fault tolerance in mind. Identify root cause of what happened. Keep up with latest platforms used by internal IT. Team building exercises. My favorite. Make sure operations are prepared about the upcoming new functionality and how we can start monitoring that area of the application even before the release is done, which means open communication early. Right on. Cool. And of course, the testers, right? A lot of people identify with the tester role, focus on critical workflows, breaking out of the we do it this way, we've always done it this way mindset, test training, put QA environment on a solid state drive to avoid unnecessary system latency and avoid risks of testers not testing due to lack of patience. Right? Wow, yeah, there it is. You know, but that even wasn't my favorite. Bad things happen, let's ignore it until it happens again. Sounds careless, but in the scheme of things, there may be other things that are more important and bigger than this, so let's think and focus on that. That is a really interesting thing. It's like that's a tester thinking like, don't be distracted by the shiny object, guys. Remember our list of P1s that we've got the next live site incident right here. There's enough firefighting going on. Maybe if we focus on this other stuff, will inadvertently or deliberately help that? I don't know. That surprised me, this card. It just like, wow. And I didn't think this tester was being glib, this guy. Although this other one, I think he was being glib. That was being glib. Right? I only got one of those out of 150, by the way. And so, anyway. So in closing, back at your desk, I always like the back at your desk thing. Like, so what, John? Now what? Well, you may say, well, we don't do experimenting. We don't do A/B testing. We don't have the resources. It's not our ilk. We're a totally different vertical. Well, maybe you can crowdsource some charters, right? Mission statements that are meant to expose risks and vulnerabilities you're worried about. Maybe you're thinking, really, create monitoring? Well, we have tons of monitoring, or it's just monitoring it's antithetical to what we're doing. We're just completely different. Well, do you have operations? And do you know somebody, or can you get an idea of what their problems are? I like being right at the intersection between customer support, operations, and engineering. I'm literally between the three. I live in engineering, yes, but I have a reputation with eWatch and customer support that when they're stuck on something, and they know I can count on them for questions like, how many phone calls are we getting to this? How many accesses to our knowledge base, the talking points when you call eBay? How many times has that knowledge base record of that problem been accessed in the last 2 months? So they may give me some interesting metrics that may help my bug advocacy. Well, I'm not sure what to investigate, John. We got all kinds of things. Well, fine, yeah. Well, talk to your support and just get their most wanted list. 10 most wanted, your top 10 fugitives you'd most want to see fixed this week, this month, this quarter, whatever it is. And focus there for lifecycle quality. You don't have to fix every bug all the time. Just make a small step. Really, John, make surveys. You know, we're going to use SurveyMonkey or something. No, is there a business analyst? Just get a sense of NPS. What is the zeitgeist out there? You can go on Twitter and say hashtag eBay sucks, I guess. You know, I've done it. I've done it just to see what's going on. Yeah, it's interesting stuff. You can try the Legos thing at lunch. It's not copyrighted or trademarked. It's just Legos. You can always email me, again, bughunter@ebay.com. And if you're curious about any of these things, you want to drill down, I can help you with that. If you want to know your reputation, maybe there's user groups online. Maybe on your own site, like we have discussion forums on eBay. Maybe there's like, you know, the Rose City Spin, right? That's a user group. So scan user groups for your product, see what's going on. Just pose as a user, lurk, linger. Follow-up testing, talk to an early adopter, or get involved in your early adoption program if you have one. It's a great source. They're very candid with you, and they're under NDA usually, so you can do something. Yeah, but I'm in medical devices. How am I supposed to dog food a medical device? Be the customer, but I'm, you know. Well, do you have access to a live study or maybe a trial? Is there anything in the FDA has said about it that you can look at? My mother-in-law used to work for Boston Scientific in the catheter division doing the regulatory affairs. So she had lawyers all the time coming in, you know, helping her out, and was privy to a lot of interesting ways to knowing about quality. Capabilities, like I mentioned, Q4, and are we ready to do a big stunt like a seller dumping a lot of inventory? Maybe there's a marketing roadmap that has it on it. Exploring competitor URLs like I did with MLB versus the Yahoo app. That'll give you a sense of your quality. Usability, but you don't have a usability lab. Okay, well, take your team at lunch, host a bug bash, but do this open book stuff. And say, what 3 ways are there to uninstall our product? And maybe you'll find 5 ways. And maybe someone will think of something new, a scenario you didn't think of. Because the point is just to reveal an important concern about the value of your quality of your service or product. That's all. That's all testing is that revelation, like literally pulling the covers off, being the headlights of the product. I hope there was something useful in here. That's my time. It's now time for Q&A. We have, what, 5 minutes? All right. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you. Awesome. That's my coffee right there. Thank you very much. Just go ahead and do, okay, yes.
You called your customers back and gave you low net promoter scores.
I called the customers back, yeah, the NPS callback program, yeah.
Did you find in other people in the organization, that you have other people like developers and other testers do the same thing? And can you tell us about what did you learn from that as an organization?
Yes, and lots of other people do these callbacks, but you know, I've never compared notes, and I never know what happens next. I'm curious, but I've never drilled down on that. So he asked, well, what have you learned from doing this, and have other people done it? There is a space on the forum that says, you know, actions requested or actions required, and sometimes, very rarely, it's, yeah, we should call this guy back and give him a better answer than I can give. And it goes to OOTP, which is the Office of the President, which is a little team that does escalations, particularly around this too. On one occasion, I've escalated to the Office of the President without NPS, just because of a concern that came through the eBay radio stuff. And they were really cool about it. They showed me, they CC'd me on the follow-up that they did. So I know they're even listening, which is really cool. But no, I haven't drilled down to see what actually happens, other than my own experience. Yes, Karen. Flip back to the slide I had about, let's see, which one? This one? Earlier. Really? I had one? Oh, yes. Sorry, I picked the wrong ones. I mean, I picked ones to talk about, and I forgot to do day over day, week over week, month over month, year over year. Are those the ones you want? Yeah. Yeah. There's a big, you know, bell curve of, you know, when we're the busiest, and there's different lines of week over week, day over day, different things. Yes. How do you sustain this and make it part? So tonight I am speaking about culture, inciting and inviting quality culture, and it has to do with your personal reputation and your brand and what you feel is right, and just to constantly try these ideas and to the degree that they resonate. I mean, you're free to be bored with them and stop doing them, right? But I find that a culture is something, an organism in and of itself that behaves in a certain way that either gets rewarded or punished by doing certain behaviors. And what I'm trying to do is make a subculture of learning and discovery that I'm hooked to, that when I email somebody, they know my spirit is authentic, is I'm really doing the best I can to be the steward of quality and and actually do favors for people who need it. You know, it's that servant leadership. So, because I know that I'm going to need a favor back again. That I don't know how to scale that and to make people care about that, other than by being the example that I want to see in the world and hoping that it catches on like a viral video. But there's no like live site quality team of 100 people that does this. I would like the chance to try that kind of a stunt, but it's up to the org to give me license to replicate and scale that. So I don't know. I'm going to be here today and tomorrow, so I want to hear from you if you've done something like this, either in a team or you've scaled it in a particular way. That's important for me to know because that might help me. It is 9:32. One more, and then we'll break. Yes, Danny.
John, a couple times you referenced testing in production, and on the list include things like putting bids on a live item. What happens if you win that auction?
All right. So there is a category called test auctions on the site, and you can use it too. It's actually on the live site. You got to know where to look. We've buried it pretty deep in production. But it's a production listing with mine. It says do not bid, do not buy, right, to other sellers, and I do it quickly, right, and to do my test and then delete the listing or have it expire quickly or whatever. But yeah, it's never meant to. And if it does, I'll email the customer saying it says do not bid, do not buy. Maybe there's a misunderstanding. My name's John. I work for eBay. And of course, we never do anything with live listings that aren't ours. But once in a while, I've seen it happen that there's a test listing, do not bid, do not buy, and someone buys it. And it's like, and I learned that people do that kind of stuff, even though the item is like 10 cents or whatever, because they're trying to buy feedback, just get the quick feedback score and then up that feedback. So it's something I have to be alert to, and but it's rare, but it can happen. Good question, though. Okay, that's it. Thanks again for your applause. Thank you very much.